What's going on, DGen Nation? Back with another video. About to hop into a Best Ball Mania 4 draft. This is going to be my 78th draft of the offseason. Draft just filled, and I'm picking out of the 7 spot. Not normally my favorite pick, but I haven't gotten many picks in this range, so I'm actually happy to get any picks between 3 and 7. I think that's going to help me balance out my portfolio a little bit. Aiming to do about 100 drafts roughly. So I have about 23 left. If I'm going to stop right at 100, I could see myself going a little bit over. I don't think I'm going to max it, but I fired 100 last year. I got one team through to the finals and finished 30th overall. So I know the field's a little bigger. It's going to be a little tougher this year. So I might actually fire a few more bullets if I don't feel like my portfolio is really balanced well enough. I have a few guys that I'm heavily exposed to, but my top 5 exposures are guys who kind of go round 6 and later. I've read them off in a couple previous videos, and they've actually kind of stayed pretty steady. So let's go to the board here. Someone just picked Bijan number 1, so this actually might be a draft where I could scoop some value. You normally see either Jefferson or Chase going number 1, occasionally maybe McCaffrey, or a couple times I've seen Kelsey, but I haven't seen Bijan go 1. He did get steamed up pretty crazy after the draft when he landed in Atlanta, and he was going top 5, but I've yet to see him at number 1. So all that means is that some value is going to about to fall to me right here at 7. So Bijan 1, Justin Jefferson 2, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Cooper Kupp. Pretty standard start other than Bijan. So you kind of have to worry sometimes when these teams go rogue too. Like, are they going to just draft a team that ends up getting thrown out because they just go so crazy with ADP? Bijan goes, in the first a lot of times and maybe the second. So to take him at 1 isn't crazy. I'm going to go Diggs here. I drafted Kelsey the other day, and I just didn't like the way my team turned out. I'd rather have the elite number 1 receiver than the tight end. Even though they're fairly close in points. Obviously, Diggs did not get to finish his week 17 game last year with the DeMar Hamlin situation. So his points would have been a little higher. You'd expect, even if he got 15, 20 points in that game, he'd be closer to 300. Kelsey was around 265, 266. So just in a vacuum, if those two are close, I'm going to lean towards the receiver because there's good tight end value later on. And you box yourself in when you take Kelsey. I don't feel good about taking 3 tight ends. So it ends up being situations where, like, if I wanted to stack Buffalo and New England for week 17, if I want to grab Gesicki or Henry or Knox, all those guys go super late and they're great values. But I only feel comfortable grabbing Kelsey and one more tight end for the most part if I'm going to take a tight end in the first round. So, I mean, you can take 3, especially if you only grab 2 quarterbacks, but just not something I'd recommend most of the time. So I went Diggs at 7. We see Eckler, AJ Brown, Travis Kelsey, Amon-Ra St. Brown at the turn, CeeDee Lamb, Garrett Wilson. To the team out of the 12 spot, Nick Chubb goes 14, Waddle, Devonta Smith. I'm on deck. They go to Devontae Adams, which is crazy value at 17, in my opinion. That's a great pick. This is always the dilemma. Do you go Josh Allen because he most likely won't make it back? Do you wait? I'm gonna go Olave. I took Ramondre last time, and with the same pick, I took Ramondre right there, reached on him a bit, and then I ended up getting lucky, and Josh Allen fell back to me, so I was able to build out that whole Bills Patriots stack. I really like that team a lot. So I feel okay about taking another positional player there and hoping that Josh Allen slips back to me at 31. His ADP is 28, I believe. Yeah, 27.6. So it's not crazy for him to fall to 31. And if he doesn't, I'll just pivot I could build out a Saint stack, grab Derek Carr later on. There's a million ways you could pivot. So I try not to get tied into building out a stack with my first pick. There's many ways you can go with it. So let me go back to the board. So I went Olave at 18. Then we see Jonathan Taylor to the team at 6. So that's, that I've seen a few teams with that combo, but the fact that Bijan went at 1 pushes every player back 1 spot from where they normally go. So the team at the 6 spot most of the time isn't able to get Jonathan Taylor. Like, he slipped there as well past ADP. I think his ADP is 17. Let's take a look at where his ADP is settled. Yeah, 16.8. So normally he's not making it to 19. He usually gets selected pretty much right at ADP. But if both of those guys hit their ceiling, that's a deadly combination to have McCaffrey and Taylor. They're going to be trying to make up some ground at wide receiver, certainly, but you're talking about 2 guys that can just record-breaking seasons by both of them. And if Taylor can get back to form and McCaffrey can just do what he did last year after the trade to San Francisco, that's going to be every week kind of monstrous stats coming out of the running back position. So see what they do. That team does here at the pick coming up 30th overall. But Olave, Jonathan Taylor, Olave to me at 18, and then Jonathan Taylor 19, T. Higgins, Saquon Barkley, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard. The team that took Bijan out of the 1 spot goes Patrick Mahomes, Josh Jacobs at the turn. So I think really they're just trying to build in a unique combo of players. They're thinking, okay, Bijan, in their opinion, could be the number 1 overall player, regardless of what ADP is telling them. They think that he could be the number 1, and no one's taking him out of that 1 spot really. So you're going to get a different combo. You're not normally going to get Mahomes, Jacobs with a Bijan team. So that seems to be their thinking. And you're going to see a lot more of that as the offseason goes on, because people like myself who've done a lot of drafts try to get different, try to balance out their portfolio with different guys. And sometimes your draft position, which you have no control over, kind of controls that. So I'm on the clock. Josh Allen did make it to me, which makes me feel great about that pick of Olave, because I have 2 stud receivers. I'm going to get a guy who has number 1 overall quarterback potential, great rushing upside, and he falls past ADP. So good start so far. I really like that pairing of Diggs and Olave. Would have been great if it was Devontae Adams, if he had maybe slipped to me 1 more pick. Like, I've never seen Diggs and Adams on the same team, so that would have been nice, but like that so far. So I went Josh Allen 31, and Breece Hall goes off the board 32, Christian Watson, Lamar Jackson to the team in the 10 spot, Najee Harris 35, and the team at the turn out of the 12 spots picking back to back, Calvin Ridley, Amari Cooper. So 4 straight receivers for that team. So what does that tell me? It tells me that I should most likely grab a receiver here, because sometimes you see a team like that, they draft 4 receivers, they're probably not stopping. And the team in the 9 spot you see there, taking back Philly, started AJ Brown, Devonta Smith, Christian Watson. So multiple teams have gone receiver, receiver, receiver. Team out of the 5 spot, Cooper Kupp, T. Higgins, Deebo Samuel. They started 3 straight receivers. So it's a receiver room, you can tell, for the most part. And if you don't secure, I mean, I went 2, which I feel good about now, seeing how these first 3 rounds are playing out. But if I pass on one here, I don't like the next range for sure. I don't really like this range much either. This is kind of a range where I'm taking Drake London a lot and don't really love any of the other names there. ETN's been free falling a bit. Wouldn't hate him here. as kind of an anchor running back. But I'm gonna pass on him. I would maybe go Fields, but I already have Allen, so I'm gonna go with McLaurin. I don't have much Terry McLaurin, so I think the range here: Keenan Allen, Drake London. Drake London to me has the most breakout second year potential. Like a guy like Keenan Allen, I know what he can do, and if he could stay healthy, he's extremely solid. But I want more upside. I want more breakout potential, someone who could be, a top 5 guy potentially. And I think London has that in his range of outcomes, even though Atlanta is a very run heavy team. I think he's so talented that I could see that definitely in his range of outcomes, you know. You talk about a top 10 pick, played extremely well as a rookie. There's enough weapons there that you can't focus in on one guy and double team them. They have Pitts. Cordarrelle Patterson is still a dangerous guy you have to worry about as a gadget type player who they can mix in. You're talking about you have worrying about Bijan Robinson in the backfield. So I love Drake London, but I have so much Drake London and so little McLaurin that I'm fine kind of mixing it up here. Terry McLaurin, he's not a sexy pick by any means. He's a boring kind of pick. And normally I wouldn't like him as my number 1, even my number 2, but as a number 3 in the 4th round, I think he's fine. He's dependable. He's going to put up about 80 catches, about 1,100 yards, and 5 to 7 touchdowns. If the touchdowns could go up, he could have a monster. He could far exceed what he's done thus far in his career. We've all seen the Mike Evans of the world when they have those seasons where it's 12, 13, 14 touchdowns. That's when you really take that crazy spike. You get into that range of 200 plus points at the receiver position. So that's what I'm hoping for out of McLaurin as a number 3. If he could perform like a number 2 or a low end number 1, then all of a sudden, this receiving core is elite. I already like it. I think it's elite with just Diggs and Olave, but he could put it over the top. So I went McLaurin 42, Keenan Allen, DJ Moore, Jahmyr Gibbs, Mike Williams, Drake London. The team at the turn out of the 1 spot takes Fields and Hawkinson. ETN, Herbert, Kenneth Walker, Joe Mixon at 53. The team right behind me in the 6th spot is on the clock. They take Ayuk. So I'm on the board and have some decisions to make. I have a quarterback. I have 3 receivers. Always like Kittle. Kittle's always on my radar in this range. Or do I go running back? And I'm gonna go Kittle. I think positionally, traditionally this is a dead zone. Traditionally, this is where the dead zone starts. Do I think the dead zone is the same as it was in past years? No, because in almost every draft, let me go back to the board. In almost every draft so far this offseason, you've seen 2 running backs in the 1st round at most. There's no other running backs that are going in the 1st round besides CMC and Bijan. And Bijan's ADP has slipped to a point where I see him a lot of times going at the turn, either the 12 or the 13 spot all the time. So technically, a lot of times Bijan is selected in the 2nd round. His ADP might not indicate that, but he's slipped from an ADP of about 6 or 7 to let me just double check, but I think it's around 10. And I've often seen him go in the 2nd round. So let's see what team took him. Nepsis. Yeah, so his ADP is 9.8, basically 10. So he's going around the 10 spot, but depending on the room, like if it's a wide receiver heavy room, I see him slip to the 2nd round all the time. So you're basically talking about 1 for the most part, sometimes 2 running backs in the 1st round. And other than Kelsey, maybe Eckler, it's all wide receivers. It's very wide receiver heavy through the first 3 rounds. You get this little run here that Saquon, Derrick Henry, Tony Pollard tier, but I've seen them as well slip many times to the third round. So you're battling this wide receiver avalanche in most of the drafts. So I'm on the clock here. I like Dameon Pierce. Out of this group of guys right here, I like Dameon Pierce the best out of Miles Sanders, Cam Akers. I actually like Swift. If Swift's there, I might snag him on the way back. I could have went receiver again, but I think Pierce there, even though he is technically in the dead zone. And that was my point, was that the dead zone has moved back because of how heavy the receivers are going, because of now Mahomes, Allen, and Hurts all being steamed up from the 5th, 6th, 7th round last year, now being picked in the 2nd and 3rd. That's pushing the running backs down even further. So you're getting sometimes Derrick Henry in the 3rd, Ramondre Jacobs, who was the RB1 last year. You're getting RB1s in the 3rd round, whereas traditionally there was a lot of running backs going in the 1st and 2nd. So by the time you got to the 5th, those elite number 1s were gone, and you were picking from sometimes, occasionally there was some gems, but for the most part, it was garbage. Guys who, quote unquote, had a secure role, kind of older veterans or guys who weren't really talented, but were promised touches, on a team with a bad offensive line. And that's where you're getting a lot of those dead zone guys. So that has changed. That has definitely changed. And I did forget about Eckler in there. Eckler is pretty secure in the 1st round. So you're talking about most of the time still 2 running backs in the 1st, sometimes 3 if Bijan stays in the 1st round towards the end of the 1st. Eckler is pretty secure. I rarely see him slip to the 2nd, but the point stands nonetheless. So I went George Kittle at 55, Hollywood Brown, Aaron Jones, Chris Godwin, Alexander Madison, JSN, Tyler Lockett to the team at the turn, grabbing both Seattle wide receivers there. Darren Waller, 62, J.K. Dobbins, 63, Trevor Lawrence, 64, Michael Pittman, 65. And then at 66, to me, I went Dameon Pierce as my RB1. And then we see Deontay Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Miles Sanders, Treylon Burks, Jordan Addison. The team at the turn goes Mike Evans, Kadarius Toney. George Pickens goes 74, Quentin Johnston, Dallas Goedert, Jahan Dotson. And Dotson was definitely somebody I was looking at because I don't have much Sam Howell and I don't have very many Washington stacks so far. I think I have one team where I have McLaurin, Dotson, and Howell on the same team. So the thing about this tier is I like Brandon Cooks and I like Elijah Moore, and I think it gets very ugly after that at wide receiver. So I'm gonna take Brandon Cooks here. Even though I do like Swift, I do like Akers. I like that next tier of running backs just as much. Kamara, you can get late. Charbonnet, Dillon, James Conner. There's a ton of guys I like after this range as well. So I'll secure my 4th receiver. Feel pretty good about Brandon Cooks this year with Dak Prescott. I think he has at least one more good year in him. 1,000 yards, 5, 6 touchdowns. I feel pretty good about that. So looking back at it now, I should have probably went receiver again there at 66 and then over Dameon Pierce and then grabbed a running back here. I could have just grabbed Swift. And I'd prefer Mike Evans, Addison, Treylon Burks, Pickens, and Dotson, and probably Gabe Davis. I prefer them in a vacuum all over Dameon Pierce. But that's okay. I don't have much Pierce. I think he plays well in his 2nd year. And I think actually Devin Singletary might help him, not in the short term, but in the second half of the season when, Pierce doesn't feel worn down and overwhelmed by carrying a full workload. I think he could still have the same type of fantasy production with um, less carries. So a lot of the times it's not about the amount of carries. It's are they in high leverage situations? Is he getting more work around the goal line because they're moving the ball better? Is he, not taking as many big hits, trying to grind out a yard or two where, Singletary can come in and kind of take some of that work. And I think they're pretty even as pass catchers. Neither of them are great. So it might be more of like a 60-40 split, but I think that might benefit Pierce down the stretch if he's able to remain healthy. So that's why I love taking Kittle, because I do have my tight end locked in. I have 4 really good receivers, got the elite quarterback. So I like this range of running backs as well. To me, it's just no brainer for David Montgomery. I think he's in a perfect situation for him to succeed. And what I'm going to try and do here is build in since I have Diggs and Allen, I'm going to try and grab some Patriots. I'm going to continue to build out the Buffalo New England Week 17 matchup. And there's plenty of guys late that you can get on New England. You can get Juju, Tyquan Thornton. For running backs on Buffalo, I can grab either Harris or Cook. I don't think Cook will make it back to me my next selection, but you never know. Let me go back to the board here. Sorry. So I went Brandon Cooks at 79, and after him, Elijah Moore. Let me scroll up a bit. You can kind of see the last 4 rounds there. Elijah Moore at 80, Cam Akers 81, Dalvin Cook, Tua. The team at the turn takes Deshaun Watson, Jamison Williams. Then DeAndre Swift, James Conner, Zay Flowers, Evan Ingram. I went Montgomery at 90 overall. Rashad Bateman, Pacheco, Michael Thomas, Rashad White, Dak Prescott. The team at the turn takes Javonte and Sutton. Trying to see what the team out of the one hole isn't really building in any week 17 correlation that I can see. But there's more maybe just taking the best available in their eyes, I guess. So they went Javonte, Cortland Sutton, 96, 97 at the turn. Pat Fryermuth goes 98. James Cook right there, who I would have liked in my next pick, goes 99. Daniel Jones, Anthony Richardson. And I am on deck. And that's why I should have probably went with one of those receivers over Pierce, because I absolutely love the running backs again in this range. For sure. I mean, I want to grab Juju for the Patriots correlation, but I don't think I need him. I can get more Patriots later and still feel good about it. Yeah, I'm gonna go running back. Who should I take between these 3? It's hard to, even though I want Antonio Gibson, it's just so hard to click away from Kamara. I feel like even a Kamara on the decline is still better than Antonio Gibson at his absolute best. So, I mean, he did put up 208 points 2 years ago. That's a great fantasy season, but his fumbling issues really scare me. And I guess Brian Robinson was another option. If either Brian Robinson or Harris swing back around, I wouldn't mind taking either of them. And I could build in a Commanders stack. And who do they play week 17? Yeah, they play the Niners. So I have a little bit of correlation with Kittle. I could grab let's say an Elijah Mitchell or something like that. So Gibson and Robinson go back to back. I don't have much Brian Robinson, I will say. And that's why you try to if there's a range of if there's a range of a certain positions, I would have liked Juju there because he correlated, but I don't think he's good value there. The receivers there are ugly in that range. So what I did was I took a player who I think is going to be more productive, especially in the second half, who has elite potential, which maybe Juju did his first or second year in the league, but he doesn't anymore. And I think Kamara still does. I think if you pencil Kamara in for the last 10 games of the season, I think every week that he's going to be ranked, top 15 at least. So I'd prefer that than getting a wide receiver 3/4. Kincaid's there at the top of the board and he would correlate, but I'm going to take Harris because I like Knox's price a lot better than Kincaid. Kincaid could be good. He could get a shit ton of snaps out of the slot, and he could be good right away. But I'm gonna make a bet on the guy who's been on the team longer with the touchdown potential of Dawson Knox. We've already seen him score 9 touchdowns in a season, and I can get him, 6 rounds later. So that's kind of a no-brainer for me. But still get correlation with Harris. I feel actually pretty good about these running backs. Pierce, Montgomery, Kamara, Damian Harris. Like my top 4 receivers. Got the elite tight end and the elite quarterback. So I like this team. I like this team so far. The only critique of myself would have been, as I said earlier, the Damian Pierce pick at 66. I think the team would look better with like a Mike Evans or Pickens, Treylon, Addison, any of those guys, high upside wide receivers. But we powered through. So I went Kamara 103 overall, and I'm picking out of the 7 spot. So after that, Samaje Perine, David Njoku, AJ Dillon, Odell Beckham, the team at the turn. Okay, so the team at the turn took, I didn't realize that at the time, but they took Gibson and Robinson. See what other pieces they get. Yeah, they kind of have a weird mishmash of players too. Not everybody going for the week 17 correlations all the time, which is, I think stacking is smart, but I don't know if having, all the week 17 matchups correlated throughout your portfolio, I don't know if that's something you'll need. So I can understand that, especially for the casual drafter. They don't really look into those sorts of things very deeply. So Kirk Cousins, Geno Smith, Elijah Mitchell. And right before my pick, Juju went, which is fine. He went a little after ADP. Would have been nice to get him, but I got Damian Harris. I'll run down those picks in a second. I'm on the clock. 127. So Kincaid makes it, and his ADP has been slipping and slipping and slipping. So I'm okay getting him there at ADP. I could still grab Knox, or I can get Hunter Henry or Gesicki. I'm gonna throw some Patriots in the queue. Devontae Parker just got an extension. He's always going undrafted. So now that he at least has an extension, I know he'll be on the team. So I'm cool taking him at the end of my draft as well. I don't think Taekwon went right yet. No, he didn't go. I do see Taekwon in some drafts, though, get snatched like 30 picks before ADP sometimes. But yeah, Parker got re-signed for an extension. So he's not someone I have to worry about being cut in camp, unless he has an injury, of course. But I actually feel pretty good about grabbing him in the last round. I was debating between him and Kendrick Bourne. Like, as a Patriots fan, I think Bourne is a better fit for the team, but I think he's rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. So I don't know if he has a spot on the team. And I was taking a lot of him, debating between him and Devontae Parker a lot of times in the 18th. So for the time being, I'll let that be a little bit of a tiebreaker for me that Parker got the extension. Especially if the Pats don't get Hopkins, Parker's going to have a huge role again. With an improved system, could find some more success. So I went Damian Harris 114. After that, 115, Devin A-Chain, Alan Lazard, Tyler Boyd, Sky Moore, Zay Jones, Jarek McKinnon, Darnell Mooney to the team at the one spot at the turn, 120 and 121 overall. Khalil Herbert, Rondell Moore, Jacoby Myers, Aaron Rodgers, Jared Goff, Kincaid, Derek Carr, Mingo, Rashee Rice, Romeo Dobbs. Team at the 12 at the turn went Rashad Penny, Jamal Williams. I'm on the clock. I'll run down those last few picks in a second. So I'm back where I'm needing receiver. So I don't have much Nico Collins. I think this may be my second share of Nico Collins. I also have Damian Pierce. So if anything, if something crazy happens, I'm targeting Mac Jones, obviously. I want to grab Tyquan with my next pick, grab a couple Patriots at the end, maybe Pierre Strong. But if something crazy happens and Mac Jones gets snatched up, at least I have a safety plan in place with CJ Stroud. I could grab Stroud if I need to. Got a couple of his options, and there's more I can grab late. There's a bunch of late round Houston Texans that you can grab. So where was I? Okay, yeah, the team at the turn. So they've gone 4 straight running backs, the team out of the 12 spot. I want to just take a quick look what they did early. Yeah, so they went 6 straight receivers to open the draft, then went to Sean Watson and then another receiver. So 7 out of their first 8 picks were wide receiver. So they really pushed the 0 RB, which I don't mind sometimes. Like they went Gibson, Robinson, Penny, Jamal Williams. You know, if you had all 4 of them last year, well, 3 out of the 4, Penny kind of disappointed as usual and got hurt. He had a couple of good games, but you actually would feel pretty good about those 3 guys last year. So, and they're all going to have opportunity again this year. So not the craziest thing in the world. So after that, 134, Irv Smith, Greg Dulcich, Tyler Higbee, Chigo Kongwu. So 4 straight tight ends. I went Nico Collins, 138, 139, Gallup, Jalen Warren, Van Jefferson, Tank Bigsby, Alec Pierce. Team at the turn goes Russ and Komet. So they did take a couple of Broncos earlier, the team out of the one slot. So they building out a little bit of a Denver stack. Komet, and then you see exactly what I'm talking about right there. Tyquan Thornton going about 15 picks before ADP. Kind of hurts, but that's okay. Algier, Schultz, Roshan, KJ Osborne. I'm on the clock. I have 2 tight ends. Probably waiting on Mac. I'll go Thielen. I think Thielen will give me a little ceiling maybe in the beginning of the season. I like Singletary as well as my 5th running back, but my plan is to grab Pierre Strong later. And I feel pretty good about the backs I have, even though I didn't take my first one till the 6th. I feel pretty good about those 4. And I have so much Singletary, so that's a little bit of a remix for me there, something I don't do very often. So I think I only have 3 shares of Thielen total. He's past ADP. Young quarterback, could rely on a veteran early in the season. So if he gave me, let's say, out of the first 8 weeks, he gave me 3 spike weeks, that would be worth the, 151 overall to me. Even if he did nothing for me the second half. The guys I want to be going off in the second half are the top 4. And they all have different bye weeks. So Diggs, Olave, McLaurin, Cooks. Those are the guys I want to be carrying me and having the big games, 15, 16, and 17. So I'm okay with having a couple shares of Thielen. I'm not going crazy for him. I'm certainly not reaching up in ADP for him, but if he falls like that on a team where I'm a little wide receiver needy, I'm all right with it. So after I took Thielen there, 151, Rashid Shaheed, Stafford, DJ Chark, Kyler Murray to the team out of the 11 spot. Team at the back-to-back goes Kendre Miller, Taysom Hill. I like what that team out of the 12 spots doing. I like their attack, and they went all in on the zero RB strategy. They haven't taken a receiver in a while, so I like what they're doing. Even if it doesn't pan out, I like that they went in with a strategy, and they have a red badge, so that makes some sense. They've done a lot of drafts. I wanted Singletary last round. He's still there. And now I'm debating in my head, do I want to take an upside rookie like a Jaden Reed? But I'll go Singletary. You know what? That's such a safe pick by me. I don't love it. Those are the guys who will win your leagues like that, like a Jaden Reed or Marvin Mims. They get the right opportunity, and one of the guys ahead of them goes down, and all of a sudden they're, the last 5-6 weeks of the season, they're going crazy. Those are the kind of high upside guys you want, especially in best ball. So that was kind of a safe pick by me there. Not my favorite. Thielen and Singletary. Not sexy names right there, back to back. But I'll try and make up for it. Next couple picks, get some upside. So let me throw some guys in the queue. Knox, Gasecki, Henry. I'm okay for having 4 tight ends on this team. I think I only have 1 or 2 teams with 4 tight ends, but each team is different. I know for sure it's going to be a 2 quarterback team with Allen. Stroud is there at the top of the queue. I'll throw Mac in there. If I don't get Stroud, that's fine. I'm not stressing it. I'll grab Dawson Knox for the correlation. And if Gasecki gets taken, that's okay. I can always grab Hunter Henry in the last round. I'm going to grab Parker. I never see him get drafted. Maybe with the extension, he gets snatched up finally. But that would put me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that would put me at 7. So I'm looking at it like a 2, 5, 7, 4, which would be a pretty unusual build, or a 2, 6, 7, 3 if I just stayed put with the 3 tight ends I have. I got both Buffalo tight ends. So you're thinking maybe they're flip-flopping each week. One could, Kincaid could have a big kind of 7-8 catch game. And the next week, maybe Dawson Knox could catch 2 touchdowns. That's kind of what I'm hoping for. Happy to have the correlation. Is Shakir still there? He probably is. I think. Nope, he got taken head of ADP, so that's all right as well. I'm actually okay with the Buffalo pieces that I have if I don't get any more. I could take like a Hardy, Deontay Hardy in the last round, but I'm okay with Allen, Harris, Diggs, and both of the tight ends. I think that's more than enough of the offense. So trying to map out here in my head what I should do. I know I'm targeting Parker in the last round. Gasecki goes there, which is okay. It's actually I'm hearing good camp reports about Gasecki and his connection with Mac Jones, but I also think Hunter Henry has a great connection with Jones, and he's going in the last round. So cool with that. I mean, he's like criminally low on the list, Hunter Henry. I don't think he's a guy that should go undrafted, but he does. I take him a lot in the last round, but I've seen drafts where I don't take him and he goes undrafted all the time. So All right. I guess I'll just take Mac right here just to sure it up. And I have two picks left after this. So any combination of these three, I'll be happy with. I'm cool going. See, I don't know if I'm cool going six receivers because I got 3 week 7 buys at receiver. I have one injury, and all of a sudden I'm only starting two guys week 7. So for sure, no matter what, have to get a receiver, another receiver. So I'll throw Woods and Dell in the queue since I already have some pieces of the Houston offense. Even if I don't get Stroud, that's okay. Like I don't mind doing a little stack without the quarterback sometimes. And I think most likely Parker will be there for me. Let me look at the board. Devontae Parker should be there for me. His ADP is 18th round, 213 overall, which is down here. One of the last four picks, I see him go undrafted all the time. So I actually have a lot of that Houston offense now. I didn't even realize with Singletary as well. Pierce, Singletary, Nico Collins. So maybe Mac would have, I mean, maybe Stroud would have been the better option just to stack the two teams instead of doing the week 17 correlation, which I think a lot of people that are drafting Bills are going to be targeting Patriots as well. And I did get one the other day that I loved with Ramondre, Diggs, and Allen. And I think I'm trying to remember if I got Gabe Davis as well. I think I did. So I'd love to get Pierre Strong, but I think the two smarter options here would be I'll take Parker and because essentially if Ramondre replicates what he did last year, and then Pierre Strong, maybe even as much as I like him, maybe he's splitting time with Kevin Harris, and he's a zero for me most weeks. Then I'm stuck really with Devontae Parker, Mac Jones. That's my only New England correlation. It's just and it's almost worthless at that point too. Like I'm building out this Bills Patriots stack, and I only have one of their pass catchers in the backup running back. I feel good about my running backs. So I'm fine staying at 5. I think it makes more sense, even though I'm not a 4 tight end guy, to grab Hunter Henry. So I'll take Strong out of the queue. And if Henry goes, whatever, I could always pivot and take Tank Dell. I think Robert Woods went, but Tank Dell will give me a little further correlation with Houston. I just wouldn't have Stroud, but I have a few pieces of that offense. So, if they had a big week 17 game, that might be a good bet, even if I don't have Stroud. So yeah, they're playing the Titans, so who knows what the Titans will be like at that point in the season. They seem like a veteran team. They're always going to be well coached with Vrabel, and they have, gritty veterans, Tannehill and Henry. But I think if the season breaks wrong for them, it could be a kind of a mess towards the second half of the season. So I wish I could take a little poll right now as to what makes more sense. Like I could also grab Bourne, but I'm afraid that if they get Hopkins, that Bourne just doesn't have a place on the team. He would more likely than not be the fifth receiver on the team. And he's already pissed off Belichick. I'm going to do something that is not recommended. I'm going to completely pivot away from Hunter Henry. I have 3 tight ends that I feel good about. I'm going to take CJ Stroud. What an ending. What a curveball. 21 picks past ADP. Everybody says two quarterback is the way to go. Never take 3 quarterbacks and 3 tight ends. Well, I just did it. I just went ahead and did it and threw a curveball. I think 4 tight ends. There's some evidence that it could be valuable. I don't see it. I just and I have Kittle. I spent my 5th round pick on Kittle, and I feel good about Kincaid and Knox alternating. So I don't know how much Hunter Henry adds to this team. I have so many of the Houston pieces. If they're doing well, it's more, most likely that Stroud's going to be doing well. So, and Mac Jones, like as much as I said, having just one piece of the Patriots, he is a guy who can spread the ball around. So, there might not be one guy that goes off completely. It could be Ramondre catches a touchdown and Gesicki has one. And, it could be, if it's a shootout week 17, he's a guy who can spread the ball around. That's what he does probably better than anything is short accuracy, spreading the ball around. So here's a look at the last few rounds here. Mac Jones, 186, went to Devontae Parker, 199, and then Stroud. It was between Stroud and Henry. And you see Henry went the next pick afterward. So it's good to see him actually getting drafted by someone else besides me. I have like 20% Hunter Henry. So those are the times where I feel okay about passing on a guy when I do have a ton of exposure to him. I have a ton of Mac Jones, Hunter Henry teams already. So I still got a little piece of that Buffalo, New England, but I didn't overextend myself. I had a nice setup there already with Houston. I have almost no Houston stacks. I have a ton of Singletary, but he's really the only piece on Houston that I have a lot of. So nice to get a little different there. And I actually like this team. So let me give a quick breakdown. 3-5-7-3, which by some of the experts is not recommended. You either have to go 2 quarterbacks, 3 tight ends, or 3 quarterbacks, 2 tight ends. But it's a new year. It's a new day. So Josh Allen, Mac Jones, CJ Stroud, quarterback. Running back, Dameon Pierce, David Montgomery, Alvin Kamara, Damian Harris, Devin Singletary. I think it's underrated right there for going my first running back in the 6th round. I think that's a really good running back room. Wide receivers, Stephon Diggs, Chris Olave, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks, Nico Collins, Adam Thielen, Devontae Parker. Tight end, George Kittle, Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. So I got a onesie at quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. Onesie being like someone who could finish number 1 overall. They have that number 1 overall potential. And Dameon Pierce, I think, was finished like as an RB2, but there was points in the season where he was an RB1. So I like the team, a little bit different, little pivot at the end, a little plot twist with the CJ Stroud pick. So that's going to do it for today's draft. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, please subscribe to the channel. Leave me a comment. I will reply to any and all comments. Leave me a like and just give me some feedback. Let me know what you think, what I did right, what I did wrong, what I can improve upon. All feedback's appreciated. So thank you guys. I will talk to you soon. DGen Nation out.